I told you that Russia once built a futuristic supercar meant to rival the best from Italy and Germany, would you believe me? Probably not. But that's exactly what happened in the late 2000s, when a mysterious company called Marussia Motors shocked the automotive world with concept cars that looked like they were pulled straight from a sci-fi movie. The designs were wild, the marketing was bold, and for a short moment, it felt like Russia was about to crash the supercar party. But here's the twist. The story of Marussia is not just about a failed car company, it's about ambition, spectacle, and the wild intersection of showbiz, motorsport, and Russian industrial politics. This is the unbelievable, forgotten story of Russia's first and only supercar brand. And it all starts with a man you'd least expect. Meet Nikolai Fomenko, not your average automotive executive. In fact, calling him unexpected would be putting it mildly. Before founding Marussia, Fomenko was a rock musician, a comedian, a TV personality, and a former race car driver. He competed in endurance racing in the 1990s, including events like the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and had an intense passion for performance engineering. But most Russians knew him from TV and stage, not pit lanes and gearboxes. In 2007, Fomenko made a decision that raised eyebrows across the Russian business world. He announced he was going to build Russia's first high-end performance car under the brand name Marussia, inspired by the female name Marussia, a classic Slavic name with deep national roots. Skeptics laughed, industry insiders rolled their eyes, but Fomenko wasn't joking. He gathered a small team of engineers, stylists, and investors, and just 1 year later, in 2008, he pulled the curtain off the very first Marussia B1, and the world took notice. The Marussia B1 didn't just surprise, it stunned. With its aggressive lines, mid-engine layout, and lightweight construction, the B1 looked like it belonged on the cover of a racing game or a Hollywood action film. This wasn't some slapped-together prototype. The body was made from composite materials, the interior featured a fully digital dashboard, way ahead of its time, and the company claimed performance that could rival Ferraris and Lamborghinis. But the truth was, and a bit more complicated, the B1 was powered by a 3.5-liter Cosworth 5.6, delivering around 300 to 420 horsepower depending on the version. That wasn't bad at all, especially when combined with a low curb weight. Still, performance specs were vague, and journalists never really got to test it under full production conditions. Marussia didn't operate like Ferrari or Porsche, with press cars, test fleets, and dealership support. It was more elusive, more like a concept brand with real aspirations. Nonetheless, the B1 drew major attention at auto shows in Frankfurt and Geneva. The world couldn't stop staring at Russia's bizarre, beautiful new toy, and Marussia, they weren't done yet. In fact, they were just getting started. If the Marussia B1 was bold, the B2 was borderline insane. Unveiled shortly after the B1, the Marussia B2 looked like something out of Blade Runner. It had sharp, angular bodywork, aggressive LED lighting, and a cockpit-style interior that screamed future tech. The chassis remained similar to the B1, still mid-engined, still built with composite materials, but the design language was a whole different level. People called it the Russian Batmobile, and honestly, that wasn't far off. Under the hood, the B2 used the same Cosworth-derived V6 engine, again tuned between 300 and 420 horsepower. There were whispers of a turbocharged variant, and some sources even claimed a top speed over 250 kilometers per hour, 155 miles per hour, but concrete test results were rare, if ever published. Despite that, Marussia said they had more than 500 pre-orders for the B2. And here's the wild part. The price tag? Around 120,000 euros, which placed it directly in competition with cars like the Audi R8 and the Porsche 911 Turbo. Was it really as refined or track-ready as those? Probably not, but it didn't matter, because the B2 wasn't trying to be better, it was trying to be different, and in a world of safe, polished design, different sells. Now, let's talk about what actually made these cars tick. Beneath their exotic looks, the B1 and B2 both shared a lot of components from Cosworth, a respected British engine builder with deep roots in motorsport. The chassis was a custom aluminum space frame, wrapped in a carbon fiber and plastic composite body. That helped keep weight around 1,100 to 1,200 kilograms, which is super light by modern standards. The suspension setup was fully independent, with a double wishbone configuration, sporty but also road-friendly. The brakes were ventilated discs all around, and the transmission was a 6-speed automatic or sequential gearbox depending on the version. But here's the kicker. Marussia wasn't building these parts in-house. Many components were sourced from European suppliers, especially in the UK, and assembled in a semi-manual process at their Moscow facility. Was it supercar-level craftsmanship? Not quite. But for a startup with no automotive history, what they accomplished in just a few years was borderline miraculous. And they didn't stop at road cars. In 2010, Marussia made a move that shocked the motorsport world. Yes, you heard that right. In 2010, Marussia Motors bought a controlling stake in the Virgin Racing Formula 1 team. The team was renamed Marussia F1, making Russia the first post-Soviet nation to own and operate a full-fledged F1 constructor. The goal? Global recognition, technological legitimacy, and to put Marussia on the same map as McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes. Sounds ambitious? That's because it was. But unlike their flashy supercars, the F1 project struggled to gain traction. Their best result was a 9th-place finish in the Constructors' Championship, and they never scored a podium or won a race. Still, the move gave Marussia huge exposure and allowed them to collaborate with established engineering teams across Europe. They even developed an F1-inspired road car prototype, though it never made it past the design phase. For a few brief seasons, the Marussia logo was on TV screens around the world, blasting down straights at over 300 kilometers per hour. It was surreal. Russia had a car company in Formula One, and then it all came crashing down. For all the ambition, design flair, and even F1 exposure, Marussia had one critical weakness: sustainability. The Russian automotive market wasn't ready for niche supercars, and while international interest was growing, production remained painfully slow. By 2012, only about a dozen cars had been delivered to customers. On top of that, supply chain issues, rising costs, and limited manufacturing capacity made it almost impossible to scale. Meanwhile, the Formula One venture, while great for PR, was bleeding money. Estimates suggest the F1 team burned through tens of millions of euros annually with little return. Sponsors came and went, and unlike established automakers, Marussia didn't have a profitable SUV lineup to fall back on. In 2014, the dream officially ended. Marussia Motors declared bankruptcy and shut down operations entirely. The F1 team struggled on briefly under new ownership, but eventually folded as well. Just like that, Russia's only serious attempt at a homegrown supercar company and an F1 team vanished. So what happened to the cars? Well, here's the crazy part. Despite their collapse, Marussia B1 and B2 models still exist. A few of them pop up at auctions or collector events across Europe and Russia. They've become rarities, even collector's items, partly because of their story and partly because of their sheer uniqueness. In 2023, a well-preserved Marussia B2 reportedly sold for over 200,000 euros, far more than its original asking price. That's right, a defunct Russian supercar from a company that no longer exists is appreciating in value. Why? Because it was Russia's only shot at building something that could rival the West. It was bold, it was flawed, but it was real. And if you ask car enthusiasts, there's something admirable about that. Today, Marussia is often remembered as a failure, but in truth it's more of a what could have been story. The brand proved that even in a country without a rich car building tradition, innovation and design could thrive, if only for a moment. So next time you see a B2 in a YouTube video, parked at a car show, or buried in a garage in Moscow, just remember, you're looking at a piece of history. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this ride through one of the most ambitious car stories you've never heard, hit that like button and consider subscribing. There's plenty more where this came from forgotten supercars to legendary builds that changed the game. This channel is all about stories that move. So stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next video.